Hello students, this is Dr. Utkarsha Thakre from Vidyapratishthan's Arts, Commerce and Science College. Students, we will continue the chapter Biodiversity and Conservation, and this is the second video from the chapter where we'll continue the topic as species area relationship. Now, if you want to study the relationship between the species and area, what is the relationship between the species and area? We have to study the graph which is plotted, study the result of the graph if it is plotted between the area and the species content. Now, many scientists, they tried to establish the relationship between the species diversity and the area they occupy. That attempts have been made by many scientists. Now, what is the relationship between and how it established, that we'll see in the next slide. Species area relationship. Now, many scientists, as I have told you earlier, they tried to establish a relationship between species diversity and the area they occupy. It is considered that, generally it is considered that the number of species is directly proportional to the area which is under study. It is understood that the larger areas may have more resources and that can be distributed among the inhabitant species. So, what is generally considered that more is the area, more is the species richness. But is it true? The question is whether it is true that as the area increases, the species richness also increases, because the research made by German naturalist Alexander van Humboldt says that the species richness increases with the increase in area under study, but up to certain limit only. This is the statement given by Alexander Humboldt on his systematic research he carried in the American jungles. Now see what is his concept. What is the concept of Humboldt? So according to him, if suppose we'll see and try to understand it using the diagrammatic representation. Suppose this is the area under the study. You will get here 10 species. And you are going to increase the area. This is the increased area. Since the area increase, the species richness also increase. It comes, say for example, to 20. It is coming to 20, say for example. You are increasing once again the area. The area has been increased like this. Now the species richness also increase. So it will come to 30 or say to 60. Okay. So that will increase. Once again, if you try to increase the area, see this is the area. Now it may increase to 100. Species richness increases as per increase in the area. Now if you want to increase it further like this, now it is manifold increased. The area under study has been increased. Now here the species richness increase only by a number of 1 or 2. Say for example, the species count is 102 here. Now if you think from the beginning, here the area is smaller, 10 species, area increase doubled to 20, area increase once again threefold, that is to 30. Once again area increase, it comes to 100. So what is expected area here, the species richness should be doubled up to 200. But what is seen that the species comes to, so the species richness is not increased. There is a very non-remarkable increase of 2 species only. That is what Humboldt stated, that after a certain limit, that richness becomes, there is no remarkable increase, and it becomes stable. So you might have understood through this example. Now we'll remove this and we'll move forward. Now if you plot a graph between the species richness and if you plot a graph between the species richness and area under study, what you will found? You will found that the graph appears to be rectangular hyperbola. When a graph is plotted between the graph of the species area relationship has been plotted, the graph between the area under study and the species richness. On y-axis species richness, on x-axis it is area under study. If such a graph is plotted, the graph appears in the form of rectangular hyperbola. This is hyperbola. Hyperbola and parabola are the terms which are generally used in mathematics, and the students which who has not opted maths as a subject, they may have some problem in understanding the concept. So very easily or in a simple way to keep in mind what is the difference between hyperbola and parabola, because many times a question is asked. MNC multi-choice question can be framed on this point, that how is the graph appear like when it is plotted between the species richness and the area, or the species area relationship, or graph showing the species area relationship appears like rectangular hyperbola, rectangular parabola, or a parabola, or a stiff graph, or the linear graph, like that. Those options may be there. Many times this question is framed. So you should know what is the difference between hyperbola and parabola. Very simply, you can keep into mind that inverted bowl, this is an inverted bowl. It is a hyperbola. And parabola, just opposite. The straight bowl, which is not inverted, that is a parabola. So this is an inverted bowl. It is hyperbola. So the graph appears in the form of a rectangular hyperbola, and in this graph, this areas, A stands for the area. Now you can see here, we will see the graph, in the graph between species area relationship, the A stands for the area under study. S in the equation stands for the species richness. Then the C stands for the y-intercept. C stands for the y-intercept. This is the, if you draw the line over here, this will be the intercept on y-axis. So C stands for y-intercept, and Z stands for the slope of line, or another way you can say it is the regression coefficient. In the HSC board's textbook, it is given as slope of line, and in the if you go through the NCERT book, it is given as regression coefficient. So first of all, you have to understand what is meant by regression. There are two terms, regression and progression. Progression means vad, vikas, increase, jalam, and regression is the opposite term, where there is a decrease. So there is decline. In what? In the species richness. If you think of this graph, which we call it as rectangular hyperbola. In this hyperbola, if you think at this distance, or at this, say for this is the, if we put a mark of 10 meters over here, then 20 meters, then 30 meters, and 50 meters, 100 meters, and so on this x-axis. At 10 meters, the species richness will be this much. And if you move forward at 20 meters, the species richness you will find increase. If you move forward, if you increase the area, the richness of species you find to be increased, but up to certain limit, as stated by Alexander Humboldt. After certain limit, the species richness becomes stable. There is no remarkable increase. You can see here in the graph even. There is no, the graph is not moving forward straightway like this. It is now stable. It becomes steady. It indicates that the species, there is no remarkable increase in the species richness. And that's why it appears in the rectangular hyperbola. Now, it is represented by the equation S is equal to CA raised to the power Z, when the graph is in the form of a rectangular hyperbola as shown in the uh, graph or diagrammatic sketch of the graph. If you study it on the logarithmic scale, the same equation, if you study on the logarithmic scale, it will appear as log S is equal to log C plus Z log A. You have to put just a log. Logarithmic scale, putting up logarithmic scale is once again quite difficult for the students not opted math as their subject. So when you put it on the logarithmic scale or 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 on log scale, you have to convert. You can easily convert this equation as S as log S, C as log C, and A raised to the or Z as Z log A. And the equation turns to be log S is equal to log C plus Z log A. And when the equation is log S is equal to log C plus log Z log A, the curve is stiff or it is in the form of a straight line. Why this happen? Because there is change in the uh, regression coefficient. When the equation is S is equal to CA raised to the power Z, or the graph is in the form of rectangular hyperbola, that time the value of Z, that is regression coefficient or slope of line, is lying between 0.1 to 0.2, regardless of the species or the region under the study. But when the value of Z increases, the graph changes to the graph becomes stiff, and equation of the graph also changes to log S is equal to log C plus Z log A. This happens just because the value of Z increases. Z's value वाढते. This is not given in your HSC board textbook, but it is very clearly given in the book of NCERT. If you refer the book of NCERT, it is given that the value of Z ranges. It is the range of value of Z is 0.1 to 0.2 when the slope is in the form of rectangular hyperbola, and when the value of Z increases or area under the study increases, the that is it the larger area like the entire continent is considered, the slope becomes steeper, and when the slope becomes steeper, the value of Z increases from 0.1 to 0.6 to 1.2. You can note this range, where this range of Z is seen when the slope is closer to the vertical, it is steeper like this, and the equation changes to log S is equal to log C plus Z log A. It is because the area under study increases, there is vast increase in the area under study, and accordingly the value of Z also increases from 0.1 to 0.6 to 1.2. This means that you can say that the Z value, if it is increased, the graph becomes steeper. And if the Z value decreases and area under study also decreases, the graph is seen in the form of rectangular hyperbola. Okay. Now, if from the above discussion, you can say that in very large areas, the number of species found increases faster than the area explored. So this is about the species area relationship. This is about the species area relationship. I think you might have understood what I wanted to explain in this graph. Now, Ultimately, we can say along with the increase in area of under the study, the species richness increases, and when the species richness increases at a larger extent, the graph appear in the form of straight line, or it show steeper graph is seen. And if the species area under study is less, the value of z is also less, and the graph appear in the form of rectangular hyperbola. Now, next is importance of species diversity in the ecosystem. Now, if you think of the ecosystem, what do you think whether the species diversity has an immense importance in the ecosystem, whether it is required that there should be species diversity? What will happen if the one or few species get completely disappeared or get completely removed, permanently removed, get extinct from the ecosystem? How it will affect the ecosystem? That we'll discuss in this slide. Now we know it very well that ecosystem is said to be stable. When it is said to be stable, if the average biomass production remains fairly constant for a period of time. And if it is a stable ecosystem, it is a strong ecosystem. How it should be? If it is a strong ecosystem, it should withstand the disturbances and recover it quickly. Which are the disturbances? For example, storms, for example, the floods. In such disturbances, the community should be stable. So it should withstand, it should able to stand in such adverse climatic condition, and if there is certain damage, it should recover it quickly. It must be resistant to invasive species. Resistance means it can fight against, it should be able to fight against. Then invasive means those species which are not basically from that area. त्या एरियाच्या त्या मूळ स्पेसिस नसतात, कुठल्या तरी बाहेरच्या स्पेसिस येऊन जेव्हा एखाद्या एरियामध्ये स्थापित होतात किंवा त्या तिथे एस्टॅब्लिश होतात, तेव्हा त्या स्पेसिस ज्या त्या विशिष्ट एरियाच्या मूळ स्पेसिस असत नाहीत, पण त्या बाहेरच्या स्पेसिस त्या ठिकाणी येऊन प्रस्थापित होतात, तेव्हा त्या स्पेसिसला आपण इन्व्हेजिव्ह स्पेसिस असं म्हणतो. आणि ह्या इन्व्हेजिव्ह स्पेसिस ज्या बेसिक स्पेसिस असतात त्या एरियामधल्या, किंवा ज्या मूळ स्पेसिस असतात एरियामधल्या, ओरिजिनल स्पेसिस असतात, त्यांच्याशी कॉम्पिट करतात. दे कॉज हार्म टू द ओरिजिनल स्पेसिस, नेटिव्ह स्पेसिस. दे damage to the native species, and therefore there should be control on the invasive species. Control of whom? Control of the community. Community should resist. Community should avoid the fast spread of this invasive species. Then it is said to be the strong community. Okay. Now, the many researches has been carried out regarding the species diversity. David Tillman carried a field experiment, and he proved that species richness does help in the stability of a ecological community. If you want a stable ecological community, it needs a species richness. It was experimentally proved by David Tillman. This species diversity lead to the less variations in the biomass production and over time, and this is called as productivity stability hypothesis. So if there is a increase in the richness of species diversity, there is increase in variation in the lesser variation in the biomass production, and this is called as the productivity stability hypothesis. This hypothesis was well explained by the scientist, or rather you can say the ecologist from Stanford University, named as Paul Ehrlich. Paul Ehrlich explained the concept of productivity stability hypothesis giving the analogous experiment. एक साधर्म्य साधणारं एक्झाम्पल त्यांनी एरोप्लेनचं दिलं, आणि हा hypothesis he named that hypothesis as a revert proper hypothesis, and he explained what is the significance of species diversity in the ecosystem. For that, what he did, he has given the example of aeroplane, and he compared aeroplane with the ecosystem and species with the rivet. You know the aeroplane, all of you know the aeroplane, and rivet, you know what the meaning of rivet. Here the meaning of rivet is given as the part which keeps all the part of aeroplane together. You know the size of aeroplane, a big uh, um you can say the big vehicle for journey through the air or through the space, through the air. So to keep all the parts of aeroplane together, the device, the fastening agent which is used, that is the rivet. So another way you can say that rivet is the mechanical fastener that attaches the multiple parts together. वेगवेगळे पार्ट एकत्र ठेवणारा किंवा सांधणारा जो भाग असतो त्याला आपण रिवेट असं म्हणतो. तर दिस इज compared with the species. So this underlines the importance of species in the ecosystem. If you consider ecosystem as a large aeroplane, and rivet, that is the part which is keeping all the parts of aeroplane together, that rivet is compared with the species that underline the significance of species in the ecosystem. Say for example, if if you think of the aeroplane, all the passengers sitting in the aeroplane, if one passenger and then another, every passenger thinks to remove one part of the aeroplane from the rivet, what will happen? Initially, if a minor part is removed, it will cause no damage, or it will do not show disturbance initially. If one or the other part is removed from the rivet, initially not much disturbance or disturbance will be seen, or it will be experienced. But slowly, more number of parts are removed. Then what will happen? It will definitely cause a serious damage or threat to the safety of aeroplane. Or secondly, it also depends on which part has been removed. If suppose from the aeroplane, from the rivet, the part which uh, assemble or which joins the wings of the aeroplane is removed from the aeroplane, what will happen? It will definitely cause a serious threat to the aeroplane. In the same is the case in case of species. Initially, if one or the other species is removed from the ecosystem, no serious threat will be experienced. No serious disturbance to ecosystem will be experienced. But if suppose it is continued further and large number of species are removed from the large number, not only large number, and that too the important species are removed from the ecosystem, what will happen? It will definitely damage the ecosystem. The relationship between the diversity and well-being of ecosystem is not linear, but uh, it is certain that loss of some of a species may not pose a threat. एखादी स्पेसिस जर गेली तर फार तिथे थ्रेट झालाय किंवा फार डॅमेज झाला असं दिसणार नाही. इट विल नॉट pose a threat to the ecosystem initially, but afterwards, if large number of species are continuously they are removed from the ecosystem, definitely, certainly, the cause threat in a very short span of a टाइम. त्या ठिकाणी फार फार कमी कालावधीमध्ये आपल्याला त्या ठिकाणी डॅमेज झालेल्या इकोसिस्टमला त्या ठिकाणी दिसणार आहे. इट विल अफेक्ट द फूड चेन, इट विल अफेक्ट द फूड वेब, which will affect the energy flow, the natural cycles like phosphorus cycle, CO2 cycle, etc., in the ecosystem. In short, it will affect the balance of ecosystem. So that is the significance of species diversity in the ecosystem. If there is loss of species diversity, then definitely it will damage the ecosystem. It will affect adversely to the balance of ecosystem. Now, in the next slide, we'll see the loss of ecosystem and what is the before that, we'll see the scenario. What is the current status of the biodiversity or diversity in the um, around the globe, or in the in our continent, that is India. Can you tell me how many species, or have you studied somewhere, or have you read about how many species exist on the earth? Or can you imagine how many species existing in our continent, that is India? It is quite difficult to us to guess, or even you have if you want to count it systematically or study it systematically, it is not an easy task. But still, uh, IUCN, it is a association, International Union of Union for Conservation of Nature. International Union for Conservation of Nature is the association that has documented. This association has documented 1.5 million species in 2004 around the globe, and yet many more species are to be studied and to be documented. It is quite uh, clear that the data is from is recorded in 2004, and we are now in 2020. So it is quite clear that there might be major diversity of in the globe. It is to be studied. Now, if you think of the studies made by other scientists, it is considered that there is existence of, on the earth plus or along the globe, there is existence of 20 to 50 million varieties, mm, might be there in the around the globe. Robert May has made the study of biodiversity and systematically estimated 7 million species अराउंड द ग्लोब. फक्त 7 मिलियन स्पेसीसचा अभ्यास रॉबर्ट मेनी केलेला आहे. आणि कन्सिडर काय केलेलं आहे की जवळपास 20 ते 50 मिलियन स्पेसीज व्हरायटीज या पृथ्वी तलावर आहेत. त्यापैकी फक्त 7 मिलियन स्पेसीसचा अभ्यास सिस्टमॅटिकली आणि त्याचा डॉक्युमेंटेड डाटा मेनी ह्या ठिकाणी दिलेला आहे. इफ यू वॉन्ट टू हॅव अन आयडिया of the biodiversity in the globe, you can get an idea through the pie charts. You can get an idea regarding the relative share of various plants and animal groups in the biodiversity. Now see, from this pie chart, you can see that there is a largest share of animals, then of plant, then of fungi, then of protists, and then of eubacteria. You cannot see here, find the data regarding the prokaryotes, because our conventional taxonomic methods are not suitable to identify some prokaryotic organisms. So you cannot document here in the graph even the number of prokaryotes has not been documented. But roughly you can get the idea of the very diversity of plants, animals, fungi, etc. Different types of microorganisms along the globe. If you think of just the animals, you can see it. You can get the idea of diversity amongst the animal on this globe. See, if you think these are the fishes, share of fishes, share of amphibians, reptiles, birds, starting from the crustaceans, sponges, uh, cnidarians, then rotifers, flatworms, mollusks, nematodes, arachnids, and the largest share you can see here is of insects amongst the animals. The next pie graph of plants, that is, here you can clearly see that the plants, among the plants, the flowering plants, they have a major share. If you think of the diversity amongst of the plant species, major share is of the flowering plants. And amongst the flowering plant, dicots, they show the major share as compared to monocots. Then the mosses, then the ferns and the conifers. In this way, through the you get a vague idea of the biodiversity of plants, animals, and different sorts of organisms as a whole around the globe. Now, if you think of India, India is one of the 12 megadiversity hubs on this earth crust, and we have a handsome share of 8.1% of biodiversity. जगाची एकूण बायोडायव्हर्सिटी जर विचार केली तर त्याच्या 8.1% चा शेअर हा भारताचा आहे. So you have to keep into mind these figures for as far as your MCQs are concerned. India has 2.4% of land. लँड एरिया किती आहे भारताचा, तर 2.4% आहे. त्या 2.4% बायोडायव्हर्सिटी एरिया जर कन्सिडर केला तर त्यामधून 8.1 जगाच्या 8.1% इतकी बायोडायव्हर्सिटी ही एकट्या भारतात, इतका शेअर हा एकट्या भारताचा आहे. आणि आपल्या भारतामध्ये जवळपास 45,000 प्लांट स्पेसीज रेकॉर्डेड आहेत आणि त्याच्या डबल अॅनिमल स्पेसीज आणि microbes species that are documented as. So we have identified around 45,000 plant species, double the number of animal species and other from the natural wealth of India. In this way, you can say that not only we can say that India is a is a continent which is rich in biodiversity. We have recorded just 22% of our natural वेल्थ. आपल्या नॅचरल वेल्थच्या फक्त 22% रेकॉर्ड आपण या ठिकाणी केलेला आहे. दिस वे all these things gives us an idea regarding the current scenario of biodiversity along the globe and in our continent. The major concern is that एवढा सगळा आपण अभ्यास केला, पण सगळ्यात महत्वाचा आणि काळजीचा भाग कुठला असेल तर तो असा आहे की जर हे डॉक्युमेंटेशन पूर्ण होण्याच्या आधीच काही स्पेसीज लयाला गेल्या किंवा त्या एक्सटिंक्ट झाल्या तर ते डॉक्युमेंटेशन आपल्याकडे असणार नाही. सो दॅट इज अ मेजर पॉइंट ऑफ मेजर कन्सर्न. सो मेजर कन्सर्न इज दॅट देर इज पॉसिबिलिटी ऑफ लॉस ऑफ द व्हरायटीज बिफोर वी आयडेंटिफाय देम. How it is possible? Because of we people, because of the human activities like reclamation, like deforestation, like burning the forest areas, etc., etc. These human activities may damage the some of the varieties from the earth crust before it is documented. So that's why the study of biodiversity is required. It has a intense need to study the biodiversity before it get damaged, because there is a major concern that of possibly that there may be the loss of some varieties before they get identified through the human activities. Okay, now we'll see that what is the consequences if there is loss of biodiversity, if we will not document it, and because of human activities or because of the natural calamities, even the biodiversity get lost. What will be the loss? If the biodiversity is lost, or if there is a damage to biodiversity, what will happen? The overall imbalance of ecosystem will be disturbed, and it will lead to the extinction of species. शेवटी बायोडायव्हर्सिटीचा इकोसिस्टम बॅलन्स का जाणार आहे? Because of extinction of some of the species. Loss of biodiversity means, in the another words, there is extinction of some number of species. Now, species extinction occur because of by different ways. Maybe because of certain natural calamities, so that is called as natural extinction. मास एक्सटिंक्शन, एकाच वेळेला काही प्रकारच्या प्रजाती नष्ट झाल्या तर त्याला आपण मास एक्सटिंक्शन म्हणतो. आणि मग त्याच्यामुळे लॉस ऑफ बायोडायव्हर्सिटी होतो की एखाद्या एरिया मधल्या एखादी स्पेसिस पूर्णपणे जर नष्ट झाली, त्याचा नामनिशेषच व्हायला लागली तर मोठ्या प्रमाणामध्ये तर बायोडायव्हर्सिटी विल बी ॲट लॉस. Man-made reasons are also there, like that as we have discussed, that reclamation, because of deforestation, overexploitation. These are the human activities that will be responsible for man-made extinction. The damage to biodiversity takes place due to both natural reasons and man-made reasons. Which are the natural reasons? Well, as we had discussed earlier, natural reasons may be forest fires, may be earthquakes, may be volcanic eruptions, may be floods, may be um, then storms, heavy storm, that may be the reason. Such natural calamities may be the reasons for the damage to biodiversity. Man-made reasons are destruction through hunting. If you think of the animals are hunted at a larger scale for different economic benefits. Then the settlement, jungle तोड पण केली जाते. Over exploitation, medicinal plants, they are exploited at a larger scale. Sometimes the timber wood is exploited at a larger scale. इमारती लाकूड असेल किंवा मेडिसिनल प्लांट आहे, फार मोठ्या प्रमाणामध्ये त्यांचा वापर केला जातो आणि त्या ठिकाणी काही स्पेसीज एक्सप्लॉइट केले जातात. रिक्लेमेशन म्हणजे विकासाच्या नावाखाली काही कधी कधी जमिनी अधिग्रहित केल्या जातात आणि त्या ठिकाणी मग फॉरेस्ट डिफॉरेस्टेशन ऍक्टिव्हिटीज घडून येतात. तर दॅट इज व्हॉट द रिक्लेमेशन. सो ऑल दीज थिंग्स are responsible for damage to biodiversity. We all are well aware about the 5 extinction. If you have studied the biodiversity in details or in the previous classes, there are 5 mass extinction since the before the human civilization. मानवी संस्कृतीच्या अगोदर 5 मोठे मास एक्सटिंक्शन झालेले आपल्याला लक्षात येतात. ते पुढच्या स्लाइड मध्ये आपण बघणार आहोत. विल सी इट इन द नेक्स्ट स्लाइड. The current loss of biodiversity, which is now we experience, it is the 6th extinction. 5 already we have seen in the historical period, and this is the 6th extinction which we are facing today. But it is an alarming situation. Why? Because the rate of extinction is very high, very fast, 100 to 1000 times faster than the pre-human times. मनुष्य संस्कृतीच्या पूर्वीपासूनचा जर विचार केला तर आजची हे जे एक्सटिंक्शनचा रेट आहे तो 100 ते 1000 पटीने जास्त आहे. सो दॅट इज व्हाय इट इज द अलार्मिंग सिच्युएशन. आता ही काळजी करण्याची गरज आहे की इफ the damage to the biodiversity is continued in this speed, at this rate, we have to face many more problems through the loss of biodiversity. Loss of biodiversity in any area lead to the decline in plant production. तर का आपल्याला काळजी करण्याची गरज आहे? तर हा असा सतत लॉस होत राहिला तर प्लांट प्रोडक्शन कमी होणार आहे आणि लोअर रेझिलियन्स टू द एन्व्हायरमेंटल डिस्टर्बन्सेस. मग पटकन महापूर आला की सगळ्या पद्धतीने फार मोठं नुकसान होईल. एखादं जर मोठा वादळ आलं तर मोठं नुकसान होईल, कारण तिथे प्लांट डायव्हर्सिटी नाही आहे, अॅनिमल डायव्हर्सिटी नाही आहे. जी डायव्हर्सिटी आहे, जी रेजिस्ट करणार आहे, या सगळ्यांना अडवणार आहे, यांच्यापासून आपलं संरक्षण करणार आहे, तीच अवेलेबल नाही आहे. सो देर इज लोअर रेझिलियन्स. रेझिलियन्स इज अ वर्ड फ्रॉम रेजिस्टन्स. ह्याला अटकाव घालणाऱ्या जी मेजर फॅक्टर आहे तो म्हणजे बायोडायव्हर्सिटी. त्याच्यामध्ये त्याला जर डॅमेज झाला तर एन्व्हायरमेंटल डिस्टर्बन्सेसला आपण बळी पडणार आहोत, लाईक फ्लड्स, लाईक द स्टॉर्म्स, etc. etc. Now we'll see which are the 5 extinction that we have experienced in the historical era. The 5 mass extinction in the geological time scale, where the plant as well as the animals, they have underwent extinction at a larger scale. फार मोठ्या प्रमाणात वनस्पती आणि प्राण्यांमध्ये प्राण्यांच्या स्पेसीज लयाला गेल्या, एक्सटिंक्ट झाल्या 5 जिओलॉजिकल पिरियड मध्ये. ते 5 एक्सटिंक्शन आहेत, त्याचे आपण वेगवेगळे पिरियड्स त्या ठिकाणी बघू. So first extinction was seen between the Cretaceous to Cenozoic period. Second extinction was marked in Triassic to Jurassic period. Third was noted in Permian to Triassic period. Fourth extinction, mass extinction, was noted in Devonian to Carboniferous period. And fifth one is noted in Ordovician to Silurian period. And the current extinction that we experience today, major experience that we are experiencing today, is a sixth mass extinction. And we have, if we conserve our biodiversity, it is possible to decrease the rate of extinction, decrease the rate of mass extinction. So there lies the need to conserve the biodiversity. I think here we should stop, and we should stop over here, and remain. We'll see in the next lecture. Thank you. Thank you very much.